Welcome. This episode of 31 and 31, a month of conversations with Proverbs 31 women, features Linda Myers. She's the executive director of the Dyer County Community Cancer Fund. Raised in a very large family with a legacy of strong Christian women as aunts, the Pierce girls are respected in their community as genuine, hardworking, kind-hearted women. All of them living characteristically of the Proverbs 31 woman. Linda definitely has the Pierce woman genes. Her story is one of faith, discipline, and legacy. A life lived in tune with God's calling as a public servant. This conversation will celebrate how her career in public service led to taking on the management of a local nonprofit serving cancer patients, and how Linda's faith continues to flow through her leadership, her servanthood, and the legacy for the next generation. Join me now as we learn more about the Dyer County Community Cancer Fund from Linda. Good afternoon, Linda.
Hey, how are you, Malia?
Thank you for having us in your new beautiful office.
Yeah, isn't it nice? I'm so proud of
Dyer
it.
County Community Cancer Fund. I'm excited for you to have this new space, and we'll talk a little bit about the Community Cancer Fund here in just a moment. But the first thing I want to do is introduce the audience to people who don't know Linda Myers. So tell us a little bit about Linda, and specifically I want you to touch on that amazing legacy of women that you come from in your family.
Well, I worked for 18 years in the assessor's office at the courthouse, and I loved that job, but I'm thankful that I didn't have to do it any longer, and I was able to retire in 2018. Well, I did exactly what I didn't intend to do. I got to where I just let stuff go, and I missed being with people. I love being with people, and I so missed that. It was just something about, I felt like I didn't have a purpose any longer. Even though I've got grandchildren that I get to enjoy, they live out on the family farm where we do, and I love that. But there's just something to be said for being able to help other people that I might not can do anything but give them a smile, but we never know when we see somebody what they might need and what that might be.
Right.
And what kind of day they're having,
right?
And I've tried to teach my granddaughter that when she knows how I feel about that, and I've tried to teach her that, Kinsley, you never know that what a smile does for somebody.
Just the power of kindness.
Yes. But anyway, when I was approached about this position, I thought, well, I don't know. I really don't want to be tied down. I've had some part-time jobs that I've done just a little bit here and there, and I enjoyed it because I love getting out and meeting people. But then when this came up, the first time that I was approached about this, I thought, no, I don't think that's what I really want to do. And then it came up again like a couple of years later, and I said, I think I would like to interview for that.
And oftentimes that's the Holy Spirit saying, okay, I'll let you slide the first time.
Definitely.
But I need you.
I just felt something. I just felt something like I was led to possibly do this. And when I interviewed with the board members, it was just, I said, well, Lord, if this is supposed to happen, it'll happen.
Right.
If not, I'm good too.
Yep.
But it did. It happened, and I've just been so honored to do what I do. I don't get to spend a lot of time with the patients. It doesn't take long to do what we need to do. There's lots of other stuff that has to be done, but it's just something about getting to meet them. And sometimes, at first I thought, well, I'm going to be a little overwhelmed. And I was so overwhelmed with learning the stuff on the computer and all the paperwork and everything that you've got to do, that when a patient comes in, I just be like, Lord, just put me in that right frame of mind.
Right.
And it's like when someone would come in, I just feel everything kind of mellow. And he just took over, and it just helped me be what I needed to be for a few minutes for that person, and I love that. And it's like the day of our barbecue, I thought, oh, how am I going to get through this? I went from 6:15 that morning till 8 o'clock that night, just going nonstop. But I remember about 5 o'clock thinking, Lord, thank you for giving me ability to do this. I didn't know I could do that anymore. Mm-hmm. But when I got home, I just fell apart. I was exhausted. But, it's just something about when you're doing the Lord's will, He's going to get you through it.
Absolutely.
He definitely is.
And I have seen that I touched on this legacy of women in your family that you come through. The Pierce girls, as they are known, among their peers in the community. Your aunts and your brother, your father, was he the only boy among all?
No, he had two. He was the next to the oldest. He had an older sister, but grandmother and granddaddy had 15 kids.
Yeah.
They lost 4 of them. But there were 2 other boys. And I always thought, and we lived right across the street from my grandmother and granddaddy. That's where I grew up, on a dead end street. And I think daddy always thought, because he was the oldest, that he was part daddy to them, And, but I always thought that maybe coming from them, I knew that I had a fine name. And I was always so proud to be able to say, like after I married, I was a Pierce. Right. And some people will go, were you a Pierce? I'm glad to say that. Right. I'm thankful that I get to say that I was a Pierce.
There's some strong women in that legacy.
Yes.
Some wonderful women. And several of them have served in roles like you did for 18 years in public service. In government-related jobs, but public service is what that was. And so I think that's just kind of in your DNA. Maybe.
Well, and I've seen several of them that after they retired, they didn't retire, They were able to do, one aunt in particular, she's probably busier than she was when she taught school. Mm-hmm. She's just always doing something for somebody. And I have said since I was retired, there's no reason for anyone to be bored.
Right.
There's always somebody out there. Mm-hmm. My mother was in the nursing home for, just a few years. And I thought, there's no reason for anybody to ever be bored. There's always somebody that needs something.
Yeah. I agree.
And but I do love that. That's one thing about retirement I've enjoyed. But this job is supposed to be 2 days a week. And I thought, that's just perfect. It's not a 2-day-a-week job, but that's okay too.
No nonprofit work is.
Yes.
Ever.
That's what I've learned really quick. Yeah. But, I've got wonderful board members that when I have a question, I can call any of them. And I look at them and I think, they still, most of them work full-time jobs and then do this on the side because they have such a passion for it. Right. And I see why.
Yeah. So tell us, let's talk about the Community Cancer Fund. For those that are not familiar at all with the Community Cancer Fund, what is CCF?
Well, you have to be a Dyer County resident. And Dyer County is so blessed because I don't know of any of the surrounding counties that have anything like this because I immediately started checking. Mm-hmm. But, and it is so sad when someone calls and first thing I have to say is, well, where do you live? How long? You have to have been a resident of Dyer County for a year.
Okay.
But what we do is probably one of the main things we do is help them with gas going to out-of-town appointments.
Okay.
We have some patients, we have a few that have to go to Jackson Monday through Friday for up to 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And we help them with gas. We have gas vouchers that we give them. We have someone in town that charges the gas for us. I get a bill from them every 2 weeks and we pay it. And we also help with their medication. A few people don't, they've got really good, and this is not income based. This is for anyone that's being treated for active cancer.
Okay.
Like if we hook them up with one of the 5 local independent pharmacies, they can tell us which one they want to go to. They don't bill them for anything. Even if it's their blood pressure medicine, whatever, when they come in, they get it at no charge, and then the drugstore will bill us for it.
Okay.
And then their copays, if they have a copay, there's been a couple that I was able to work with, like at Kirkland's or other places that would not make them pay when they went, but they were able to bill us.
Okay.
And, but we help with, and like bills that they get after their insurance is paid, as long as it has a date of service on it and it shows that the insurance has already paid it, I can pay the rest of it if it's in our fiscal year.
Right.
Our fiscal year starts July 1st.
Okay.
We can help up to $2,000 a year. We don't pay like utility bills and stuff like that. I wish we could,
Mhm.
because that there's a need for help with bills,
Yeah.
but we wouldn't be here long if we did all
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But what we do does help them so much, and they are so appreciative.
Oh yeah, I can speak testimonial to that, having walked my own journey,
Yes.
with cancer. And the first time I went through it, I didn't come to Community Cancer Fund because I didn't know enough about it. I just assumed it was kind of an income-based program. I did not know that there wasn't an income issue. And my husband and I both were income earners and had really good insurance. And so I still had lots of medical bills, lots and lots of medical bills, but I just didn't know that I could have, qualified. And so the second time that it came around, your predecessor, one of the directors in the time before you, knew her personally, and she herself said to me, "Why are you not coming and talking to me at the office about how we could help you?" And because I was going back and forth, just as you described, back and forth, on several days, and she helped me understand, that it's not an income-based thing. And I think that's a big misconception oftentimes with not just CCF, but maybe many programs that are out there that help in different ways, that oftentimes everything's kind of tied to the income issue, and I think it's absolutely wonderful, because I can tell you,
one of the ladies said, no, it's okay. We're fine. Thank you. But we're fine. We're blessed, Well, the longer they went through it, and she saw what a strain it was putting.
That's how I was.
And she's like, I think I'm ready to sign up if it's okay.
Yeah.
And I said, please don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, that was the same thing.
That's what we're for.
I did the same exact thing. I said to her, your predecessor, Debbie, before, I said, I want that money to go to somebody that really does maybe have an income issue, and they could use it. And she was like, okay, but you're just making things harder on yourself. And I think that's important to remember, because she was right. The stress of the extra financial burden was weighing on me. And when you're letting something like that weigh on you, and you're fighting a disease like cancer feeds on two things: sugar and stress.
Yeah, that's what I've always heard.
Yeah, cancer feeds on two things: sugar and stress. And just the stress alone, was kind of hindering my healing process. And even though, it's going through, and so I finally, gave in and kind of let my pride go about accepting help. And what a blessing it was that CCF was able to take, up to that max that it was allowed, and pay those medical bills. And that just lifted the burden off of us.
That's right, because any little bit of light that you can give that person, why not? Just the least little thing that might give them, you wish so badly when you meet these people that there was something else you could do. And I'm just like, one patient that we have is having to stay somewhere out of town for months at a time for treatment. And she said, we're blessed, we're okay. Well, then I found out that they were having to pay a lot of money just for their parking.
Yeah.
So that's a way that I was able to help her. She said, I didn't want to ask, but I said, well, I found out through someone else that's a burden that we can take off of you.
Right.
And, she said, that's a relief. She said, because I just hated, I said, don't hate to ask, and we also give them a case of Boost a month. We don't have, that does not have to go against their $2,000 a year allotment, because West Dyersburg Church of Christ supplies that for our patients. That's a ministry they have.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a wonderful ministry, and we do appreciate it so much. But you never know what people are thinking when they come in here. Sometimes you can tell that they come in here feeling like, I hated to ask for help, but
I know the feeling.
I want so badly to just, and I know because you've been there.
Yeah.
I just want to set their mind at ease, and I want them to know that there's a lot of people behind them. Like I said, the board and the volunteers that we have for the barbecue and the donations, we work off of donations and memorials and stuff also.
Right.
And people are so glad. And it's a lot of times someone that has had a family member that's fought it, and they saw firsthand what they went through.
Right.
And they want to be of help, And so that's why we want anybody to reach out.
Right. And so we encourage
Yes.
you. Do
Yes.
reach out. Just let your pride go.
Yes.
And let the healing, begin.
Right.
And so reach out to CCF. So speaking of the operations, so you're funded through private donation, a few grants, mainly, I think, is United Way.
United Way.
United Way is one of your biggest sources.
That's the only thing that we have that's guaranteed.
Okay.
And we do have to reapply for it yearly. And that's the sort of thing that kind of made me nervous about this job, because I'm like, oh, I wouldn't want to mess up something in them. But yeah, I've got wonderful board members that just jump in there and help me. But yes, the United Way funds us. We couldn't do what we do without them. Mm-hmm. It's just such an asset to this. And we have lots of donations, mm-hmm. especially around the community cancer barbecue, and all year long. Yeah, actually, we do.
And so the barbecue just happened.
Yeah, the barbecue just happened.
So the United Way is your primary source of funding.
Yes.
And guaranteed once you're approved, but you don't know that you're going to get that the next year. You have to reapply every year. And so those private donations are critical through the various fundraisers, or just sending a check to the Dyer County Community Cancer Fund office. Help as well. So you are a woman of faith.
Yes, I am.
Have long history of faith in your family as well, and so your children are walking in their own journeys of faith. One is recently a chicken school graduate.
Yes, he left pharmacy for chicken school.
He left chicken, and he left pharmacy,
and he loves it. Him and his wife both were pharmacists.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I have one of his meals sitting in my car, waiting for me to eat it now.
They love it. They love what it stands for.
Yeah.
And I was so thankful. And all of that was just part of God's timing, because, he interviewed a couple of off places where he would have sold his home and moved my grandbabies off. And he didn't get either one of those. And then Dyersburg came available. And I thought, oh, this is too good to be true. And he got Dyersburg. And he loves what he's doing. They both do. They really do. They just, like I said, they love what it stands for.
Yeah.
And then our other son is an engineer with TDOT. And I'm so proud of both of our boys, because, for a lot of years, they went to church and with just mom.
Yeah.
And over the last several years, my husband started going with me. He got saved and got baptized, and he just, it's not, I don't have to say, are you going to go to church with me this week? It's just a given. We're going to go.
Yeah.
I was, I knew growing up, my mother and daddy were wonderful, wonderful, godly Christian people. And I was raised in Southside Baptist Church. I love that church. But, when my mother when she spent her last few years in the nursing home, her hearing had gotten really bad. And I walked in one day and she didn't even know I was standing over there. And she was sitting there. I don't know how many times I went in. My mother was sitting there reading her Bible.
Yeah.
And I can remember growing up, even in elementary school, I'd be upset about something that happened at school, or something somebody said to me, the way they treated me. And, you want to go home and talk to your mom.
Right.
And I would, and she'd go, now, you never know what they're going through at home.
Right. Yeah.
My mother taught me that right off. Yeah. You never know what somebody's going through.
Right.
And we just don't ever know what kind of battles someone's fighting.
Right. That's so true. So true. And I think we should all do better about being mindful of that. Just even in the grocery store, just be just a small gesture of kindness, just a smile sometimes can uplift someone. And so I'm really grateful that you're in the position that you're in, and that you have the faith that you have. And what a blessing to have your husband be saved and going to church with you now. And, that's a testimony to the power of a praying wife.
Yeah. Because I didn't know if I was ever going to see it happen.
Yeah.
There's just been several things in my life that, like my father was murdered in 1985.
Yeah.
And just a few weeks before our younger son was born. And I didn't think we'd ever find out who did it, but we did. We had a trial, and 3 days later was the 25th anniversary of his death. And my mother always told me, don't ever give up. Don't ever, on anything you're praying for, don't give up.
Don't give up.
because, you know, and my sister is such a strong Christian woman, and I can call her, and she tells me something from the Bible. I'm not good about that, but she tells me something, a parable or this or that just relates to what I'm going through. And my brother, my older brother, I've lost two of my brothers, but my older brother, I can remember telling him, Billy, I don't know if this is ever going to happen. I don't know if we're going to ever have a trial. And he said, you know, our faith is like a muscle. If we don't use that muscle, it gets weak.
Yep.
But the more we use it, the stronger it gets.
Yep.
And I thought about that so many times, not just in all of that, but in so many things, you know.
Right.
But, and that's so true, because we just don't, and we don't ever know. We can't question God's timing.
Right.
It's hard not to sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can only imagine in a journey like that.
Yeah.
You know, so, but what a blessing for your family to have that closure finally.
Right.
And so that there's one of the other episodes that we did, the guest had been through tremendous pain, lost a family member, very untimely as well. And she coined the phrase in the interview as there being purpose in the pain.
Yeah.
And I think when you grow in your faith, when you're in the pain, but the result of the pain is growth. But I think it's a testimony to live your life that way, that it gives strength to other people.
Yeah.
You know, that they watched what you walked through and saw you survive it and saw how your faith grew through it. And I think exhibiting that strong faith is perfect for the role that you're in now too. And while CCF is not a faith-based organization like many nonprofits, you know, often are, CCF is not a faith-based organization, but it's an organization and it's a ministry of compassion.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is a godly thing.
Well, and you know, Malia, I wondered, with someone that's like you, that's been through cancer, be better for this role than me, because I can't really relate to them. I mean, I can only imagine, you know, because we all have that fear that we're going to, you know, get that diagnosis sometime. But, you know, that's not, you know, the Lord said that's not why I'm putting you there.
Right.
I'm not putting you there. You know, I'm just putting you there.
Yeah.
And I feel, and my younger son told me one time, everybody needs a purpose.
Yep.
I thought about that. I don't even know I don't know what we were talking about, but I remembered thinking that when I was trying to decide, do I want to interview for this? And I thought, yes, we all need a purpose. And it's helped me so much. You know, because I am one of Miss Janie Gregson told me one time, when you retire, get up, get dressed every day. If you wear makeup, put your makeup on.
Yep.
Just be ready for the day. Don't sit around and get in a rut. Well, I hadn't gotten really in too bad a rut, but I had.
Yeah.
But I just realized that being there for somebody means a lot. It just really does.
And you don't have to be there for somebody. You don't have to have been through what they're going through.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just somebody to listen. And what I found, honestly, I'll be very honest. During my cancer journey personally, I found that I actually had to have less conversations with people who were cancer survivors at certain times.
Yeah.
Because you would end up commiserating together.
Oh, yeah.
rather than lifting one another up. And so especially online things like the online patient forums and things like that, I had to stay away from those, because I found that those were oftentimes just a breeding ground for people's depression and their and their own sadness and anxiety.
And you know, I think Satan wants us to look at that kind of stuff.
I agree.
He wants to bring us down.
Yeah.
And we have to be open to what we realize is doing that and stay away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just be in that positive light and offering hope. And I think that is what the Dyer County Community Cancer Fund does. It is a distributor of hope.
Yes. And I'm just, you know, a friend of mine said, are you sure you want to do that? Don't you think that's going to bring you down? And I said, are you kidding? If I can, I just didn't I never felt that way about it. And yeah, you know, a husband and son came in last week because they wanted to tell me that their loved one had passed away. And when they came in, I said, guys, how's it going? and I knew things weren't good. And the son just broke down. He just plopped down in the chair and just broke down. And, I just consoled them as best I could. But I thought, well,
Yeah.
they're in here. There's something else we need to do. They just wanted to come tell me.
Mm-hmm.
They said they wanted me to hear it before I read it.
Yeah.
And it just made such an impression on me.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't ever want to take it for granted that they are not thinking that what we're doing is just for whatever.
Yeah.
They really knew they know that we care, that this board
Right.
cares, this community cares.
Right.
This community is great about supporting us.
Yeah. One of the biggest giving communities I've ever known.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful to be a part of it. But yeah, that's right.
Good. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us today
Yeah.
and telling us your story and the story of CCF. And what is a word of encouragement that you have for anyone who's out there that may be facing a journey of cancer? What is a word of encouragement that you want to leave
think
with them?
about that, Malia, I think that's another one of those times where I think, how can I encourage you, because I haven't been there? But all I can say is, don't lose your faith. Like some of the things that I've gone through in my life, we didn't lose our faith, and
Right.
I'm thankful we didn't.
Right.
But I mean, I was close.
Yeah.
I had to have, my mother or my brother or my sister, someone, they were, stronger and told me what, but I don't want them to ever lose hope. I just, and I wish that there was more time I wish that I was more equipped to know what to say to them. But just don't lose faith and don't lose
Right.
hope.
Yeah.
And as we all know, and because we had that discussion, they've come so far with cancer treatments.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I want them to know, look, they've come so far with all of this.
Right.
And
Right.
and I want so bad to say, if you haven't turned your life over to the Lord, how do you get through this without it?
I don't know how they do. I just honestly don't know how they do. And that's not what you will come to CCF for.
Yeah.
You won't come to CCF to be preached at,
Right.
if you happened.
And I don't want that to be something that, someone ever feels like they're going to have to worry about when they come in here.
No.
But I do want them to know that, like I said, we're not income based. We're just there to help them through a dark time in their life.
Right.
And anything that we can do, we want to.
Yeah. And that's just what the Christian faith is about. The Christian faith is about walking out, being the hands and feet of Jesus. And while we've said already, CCF is not a faith-based organization.
Right.
Every board member, is strong in their own faith, whatever their denomination may be or their journey may be. We've spoke of your faith journey. It just, being a Christian and living in a strong faith makes you want to do the things to help people. Donors that donate to the fund that are being distributed to cancer patients, they felt a calling in some way to make that donation. And I think it's kudos to the people who come in to seek the assistance, who have laid down their pride.
Right.
Like I had to do. I didn't think that I should take the assistance because I had a job. I had good insurance. My husband, had a good job. We've talked about all of that. But sometimes you just have to lay down that pride because it's a service that God has made available for you to benefit from, to help relieve some of that
That's right.
burden.
And we've had several of them. One of them, bless his heart, he came to work at the cancer barbecue. He really wasn't able to, but he wanted he was so eager to come do something. And we had several of our patients that are no longer patients because they're not being treated. They're in remission or whatever. They came and helped us. And they loved doing it because they were able to give back. Right. Yes. And, there's been several times that one of our board members, Miss Barbara Gatlin, was here because she helps me with the bookkeeping and everything. I don't know what I'd do without her. But she would be here when a patient would come in. She ends up telling them that she's a cancer survivor. And I think that's so good for them to hear. Yeah. And she has such a heart for this. Oh, yeah. But I think it's good. If I was fighting cancer, I would want to talk to every survivor there was, you know. Yeah. But I want them, I hope that, the Lord will lead me to what I need to say to them.
He will. exactly right.
And so often he does. And, you know, sometimes you walk away and you go, later on that night, I think, I didn't even intend to say so-and-so to him, but it
just
seemed like it
came
was
out of
just what they
nowhere.
needed to hear.
It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it
Yeah.
didn't come out of nowhere. We know where it came
Yeah,
from.
that's right. That's right.
Thanks again for sitting down with us today. At the close of all of our episodes on this podcast, we ask our guests to share a scripture that has had special meaning to you somewhere along the way. And
one that I ran across when I first started this. I have a shirt that I ordered that says, "Be the reason someone smiles today." And I love that. I said, "Oh, I've got to get that and wear it to work." Well, that morning I was just having a day. I was overwhelmed with everything. And I thought, think about this shirt you're wearing. You got to turn it around. But that same day, I ran across this Bible verse. It's Proverbs 17:22. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine,
oh,
but a crushed spirit dries up the bones.
how perfect.
And I mean, I just ran across that one night. It wasn't my daily Bible reading. It was just something it was one of those cases where I opened it and there it was.
Yeah.
And I said, that just went right along with how my day had been. And ever since
it's perfect
then,
for you in this role.
I love this.
Proverbs 17, what was that
Proverbs 17:22.
22. Nobody else has had that scripture in the series.
It's just one that the Lord laid on my heart. Like I said, at just the right time.
Perfect.
But we never know when we can uplift someone.
Yeah.
And how many times someone that's going through something like cancer uplifts me.
Right.
I mean, I might go home and have something on my mind. You know, my husband struggled with his health the last year or so, and nothing like cancer.
Right.
But I go home and I'll tell him, you know, we've got so much to be thankful for.
Yeah.
And he knows that. He knows that we do. But, you know, these cancer patients are uplifting to me also. Mm-hmm. And seeing how much they appreciate what we're able to do for them. Yeah. And, you know, going through cancer, $2,000 a year is not a lot. But the areas that we're able to help in, it's taking some burden off of them.
Yeah, it matters. Every dollar has an impact.
Yeah.
Every dollar of help has an impact. And so to that note, let's close by telling donors how they can assist.
Yes, the donors can so often when someone passes away, they'll send us a memorial in memory of so-and-so. Several times we'll get something in honor of so-and-so. Yep. They can send it to our office. They can bring it by James and Wilkes and drop it off for us. And I've got a box up there that I check daily, several times a day. They can, donate to us in that way. Anything that they want to do. We've got some people that, I've had a couple of people that have called and wanted to know what the need was. And is there something that I can do? I had a good friend that had cancer that fought it, and I just want to be able to help in some way. And I just, I kind of tell them what we do, what we pay for, and what we're able to do. Right. And they just want to jump in and help.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so you have an office that's only open a couple of days a week to make an appointment for patient intake, and it's located inside the James and Wilkes Pharmacy here in Dyersburg, Tennessee.
Yeah, and that's behind the mall.
So what is the mailing address? Say someone is in another state right now and wants to mail CCF a check.
Okay, our mailing address is Post Office Box 1055 in Dyersburg.
Okay.
And our physical address is 620 A Mall Boulevard.
Okay.
But we get our mail at Post Office Box 1055.
Okay. So if you just want to mail a donation, or in the late fall of each year, be sure to attend the barbecue and just pay attention as you see different fundraisers happening throughout the community. Oftentimes you will see proceeds go to benefit Dyer County Community Cancer Fund.
Yes.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Encourage anybody to support Community Cancer Fund.
And anyone that does it, there's so many people that don't know. I mean, it's just spread through word of mouth.
Right. If you can't support monetarily, you can share the message.
Yeah.
And you can let anybody that you know that's going through it. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the patient themselves. Oftentimes it's the caregiver that's out there trying to find out what all the resources are and helping take care of all that stuff behind the scenes so that the patient can just focus on getting better.
Yeah.
And so if you know of someone too that's caring for someone that's going through a cancer journey, make sure they know about Community Cancer Fund. So,
Yeah.
thanks again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it
You
so
have a
much.
good day.
You too, Malia.
Thanks for joining in today for this episode of the 31 in 31 series, a month of conversations with Proverbs 31 women here at the Authentically You Network podcast. We look forward to yet another great episode tomorrow and hope that you will join us to be inspired, encouraged, and have your faith strengthened. Have a great day and be blessed.